Right, I've started the recording. Right, welcome everybody to our Thursday
Is
night Zoom session.
there is
Uh,
there is Rabbi Fox.
yes. Rabbi Fox is there.
Hmm.
Okay, welcome everybody to our Thursday night session. A very special welcome to Rabbi Michael Katz, who I know from very many facets. One of them is, of course, many years ago, I attended a wedding in Pretoria when you were still a young boy and your hair was black and my hair was there. Um, and I see that they're not here today. They were with us last time. That was Philip and Daphne Kuhn. That's the wedding I'm referring to. Uh, but another thing I just want to say that for many years, when we had our Chanukia on top of Kosher World, every day Rabbi Katz came and gave us a nice wort. And even if there were two or three people, sometimes only, but the wort was so well prepared that it could have been for 100 people. So it is a little bit of a sad day today because okay, I see my uncle Robbie has just joined, but Robbie, your computer is sideways. Straighten it up. I don't know why. Um, I just want to say um, that okay, that we have normally for now quite a few weeks. Uh, we've had Les Glassman um, giving us the report from Israel, and he was due to give us the report from Israel today as well. But unfortunately, his mom passed away yesterday, and he's really part of our family, so we feel very sad for him. His mother lived here in Johannesburg, in College Mews, in fact, where the same complex where I live, and she will be repatriated to home, which is in Israel, where she made arrangements many years ago, and that will take place in January, in on Sunday, on Sunday. So, Rabbi Fox, can I hand over to you to say a word and and to introduce Rabbi Katz, or should we do the joke of the doctor first? Rabbi, what do you think? Unmute yourself, Rabbi Fox.
We always start off with the joke, so I don't want to break tradition.
Okay,
Let's start off with the
okay,
joke,
good.
and then I'll welcome Rabbi Katz.
Right. So let's start off with a joke. Dr.
Hello.
Overs, over to you.
Right.
We can hear you
This
loud and clear.
good. This joke is with apologies to Jeff Allen. Uh,
Where is he, by
Mortal
the way?
Mortal Schlapabersky approached the rabbi. He wants to become a Kohen. He wants to become a Kohen. And the rabbi says, "Look, it's impossible." He says, "Look, I'll give 5,000 rand to the shul." He says, "It's impossible." He says, "I'll give 20,000 rand to the shul." He says, "It's impossible." He says, "I'll give 100,000 rand to the shul." He says, "All right, let's see if we can do something with you." So for many, many months, the rabbi coaches him in Tanakh, in Gemara, in the Torah, and he teaches him he learns how to learn, and he becomes really, really good at it. After many, many months, it's a Shabbos morning, and obviously now he's a Kohen, and he gets the privilege of being called up, being the first one to be called up to say the brachas for when they're reading the Torah, they're learning the Torah. He does it, and he does it with aplomb. And he afterwards, he obviously after the shul service, he goes home. But the next day, the rabbi decides he's got to go and find out what it's all about. So he goes to his home and he says, "Tell me, Motel, what made you want to be a rabbi? What made you want to be a Kohen so so urgently? What was the driving force for you wanting to become a Kohen? He says, well, look, you must realize that in my family, my father was a Kohen, my grandfather was a Kohen, my great-grandfather was a Kohen. So obviously I also wanted to be a Kohen.
That shows how sometimes people pay a lot of money for things they can get for nothing. Huh?
Very good,
Rabbi,
Doctor.
over to you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Dr.
there's Jeff.
Doctor hasn't disappointed us for about 3 years now. Every single week telling a joke, a unique joke. Every single week, always funny and never dirty. So I think he's the only person in the world to have 156 jokes. Clean, good jokes, Jewish jokes. So well done, Doctor.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Just welcome to all the new people and the people who've just joined. Ben from Golden Acres, welcome to you. Is your wife with you, Ben? And Stan and Heather, Estelle, everyone, welcome again. Okay, so it's a great privilege to have with us tonight our first guest rabbi of the year since we started doing the Zoom. Okay, can I just ask Ben and others to put yourselves on mute? There's a little bit of feedback. So when I was thinking of which guest rabbi to get, it wasn't a hard decision to make, because Rabbi Katz has been at Sandringham Gardens for much longer than me. I've now been at Sandringham Gardens for 13 years, and Rabbi Katz has been giving shiurim at Sandringham Gardens and at our parents' home every Friday morning for the last, I think it's closing on 25 years, Rabbi Katz, which is absolutely incredible. They love Rabbi Katz so much, and Rabbi Katz has just done this on such a consistent basis and with so much heart and so much love. So we thank you so much, and it's such a privilege to have you with us. And also that joke was very appropriate, because everyone knows that Rabbi Katz is a Kohen. So it's great to have Rabbi Katz, the Kohen, with us. And we have our own resident Kohen Gadol, who will be speaking and singing a little bit later. But over to you, Rabbi Katz, and thank you so much.
So first of all, I want to just thank you, Rabbi Fox, and thank you, Arnold, for putting this together and for the kind invitation. Yeah, you said it, Rabbi. It's a bit of a cop-out when you're talking about a guest. I'm not really a guest. I'm part of the whole scene, and it's a privilege to be able to talk to you this evening. But let me begin with a short story. It's about a Jew who wanted to be a Kohen. And the story goes that this guy wanted to be a Kohen, and he went to his friend and he said to him, how is it that I'm always sitting in shul and I don't get called up first? I don't like it. And the friend says to him, listen, there's only one way to sort this out. There's a new shul that's opened up in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, they don't know whether you're a Kohen, a Levi, a Yisrael, they know nothing. So you travel often to Hong Kong. When you're in Hong Kong, walk in there on a Monday morning, and the shamus will come over to you and he'll say to you, are you a Kohen? And you say, yes. He's not going to check it out. What do you think? He's going to call up your rabbi in South Africa and see whether you're a Kohen or not. You'll tell him you're a Kohen, and they'll call you up Kohen. It's a brilliant idea. He goes to shul first morning. He's there. He can't wait. And sure enough, the shamus comes over to him promptly and says to him, excuse me, but are you a Kohen? And he says, yes, I'm a Kohen. And the shamus says, would you mind leaving the shul? We've got 2 yard sites and a bar mitzvah. Right. Right. Last week, we, as Arnold mentioned, we stopped this shir from going ahead because there was the threat of load shedding. Well, if anybody knows, you will have a look in this week's Parsha, and you'll realize that there was a time just before we got out of Egypt when there was real proper load shedding. And the load shedding was the second last plague that was visited upon the Mitzrayim, upon Egypt, was the plague of darkness. And all of a sudden, literally, the lights went out, and there was this absolute oppressive darkness everywhere. But the Torah has a very interesting way of talking about that darkness. It tells us that this was a darkness that had two different phases to it, or two different properties. Number one was the darkness was such that one person could not see his brother. A man could not see his brother. And the pasuk, the verse goes on and says, secondly, nobody could move from their places. Now the Mefarshim, including Rashi, tell us that in fact, this was two phases of this darkness. The first phase, which lasted for 3 days, was a darkness that pervaded everything, terrible darkness that the Egyptians had around them, and they literally couldn't see anybody. They couldn't see, we always talk about you couldn't see your hand in front of you. They couldn't see, even if it was their brother, somebody who they knew well, they couldn't recognize them. It was impossible to see in front of them. He says that was phase one. But then the darkness became more oppressive. And for the following 3 days, the darkness was so thick that the people were straitjacketed. They couldn't move. The people were absolutely stuck. They couldn't move anywhere. Torah then goes on into the very, very next verse and says, Ulachol b'nei Yisrael, and to the whole Jewish people, Haya or b'meshvesam. The entire Jewish people had light in their places. The places that the Jews dwelt, there was light. And so we see this incredible juxtaposition here. A, between the Egyptians and the Jews, and two, between darkness and light. Where the Egyptians were in this plague, there was this absolute oppressive darkness, divided, as we're told, in two. Number one, that they couldn't see each other. Number two, that they were stuck to their places. But the Jews had light. Now, the Torah tells us that this light that the Jews had was also, according to all the Mefarshim, it was also a dual kind of a light. And why? Because there is one opinion that the light meant that just where the Jews were, they could just see regularly. But according to the Midrash, the light was so special that the Jews were able to see what ordinarily could not be seen. That this light was like an X-ray vision, that they were able to see inside the Egyptian treasure troves, inside their homes. And when it came to leaving Egypt, and they said, you've got gold and you've got silver and you've got jewels and so on, and the people, the Egyptians, didn't want to give it to them. They said, we don't have. They said, but we saw, we know exactly where it is. They had this X-ray vision that they were able to see what ordinarily was not visible. So what was the light? The light was either regular light, or the light, according to the Midrash, was a profound spiritual insight and an ability to see through and see things that ordinarily were not visible. If we think about these two opposites, these polar opposites of what this light was really all about and what the darkness was really all about, perhaps we could look at them in one framework of looking at together and saying this. What was it that affected the Egyptians in this plague of darkness? Number one is not just, and Torah is very unique in its wording here. It tells us that a man could not see his brother. What does it mean? When you can't see somebody else, that's a real darkness. When you don't realize that other people are suffering, that other people are in pain, when you cannot have empathy for another individual, this is a plague of darkness. And the Egyptians were completely unsympathetic. They were completely unempathetic. They didn't care for anybody else, let alone for the Jews. And this is the midah keneged midah, they were repaid, that they were visited with a darkness, which was exactly what they themselves did to other people. They were blinded to the needs of others. And the second thing is that they became stuck. The Egyptians were stuck. They were stuck to their places. Now, in fact, if you cannot see anybody else, if you're completely wrapped up in yourself, if the only thing you see is your ego, if the only thing you see is everything about looking out for number one, you become stuck. You cannot move anywhere. And the Egyptians became so self-driven and so self-absorbed and so full of themselves that there was no space for anybody else. They became stuck and they couldn't move forward. But the Jewish people had light. And the light that the Jewish people, perhaps we can suggest, was twofold. Number one is that they knew that they had the light of being able to see each other, being able to care for other people, being able to worry about others. And that led to the fact that they were not stuck. They were not stuck in such a way that they could not move, that they could not spring to action. They were unstuck. They were able to do and carry and be and enable, and they were able to bring out the best in other people. And this is the meaning of the fact that the L'chol B'nai Yisrael Haya Or B'Moshe V'Osam, the Jewish people had light in their places. Wherever they were, they had light. Why? Because it's the Jewish way, and God is teaching us it's the Jewish way to be able to see others. And it's the Jewish way to be able to spring into action. And it's the Jewish way to be able to care to such a degree that you can bring that light, that you can share that light, that you can create that light, that you can give that light, and that you can make that light pervade everything else. And you can bring that light into every single Jew, into every single individual, no matter who they are and where they are. So it's a very empowering light that God gave us at the time of this plague. He crippled the Egyptians with it, but at the same time, we were enriched by the light, which is the opposite of the darkness that Hashem made fall over the entire Egyptian time and economy and people and so on. So we're living in a time, perhaps, where we can talk about plagues with a little bit more knowledge, unfortunately, than we would like to have. We're talking about a pandemic, and we're talking about a time when things seem to be dark in a spiritual sense. We can't have our shuls open, and we don't have minyanim, and we don't have the ability to celebrate simchas, and we don't have the ability to commiserate with each other. But that's not really an excuse. We've been given gifts like this, of being able to see each other, of being able to talk to each other, of being able to correspond with each other, and of being able to care about each other. And when we have that, we can move forward. We know what we've got to do. And we've got our Torah that's full of light, and we can study a little bit more. And we've got our mitzvahs that create light. We can do a few more of those. And we can, in that way, not only enable ourselves, but we can bring a tremendous amount of light to each other every single step of the way. So please God, we should always be able to have light, no matter what ESCOM says. We should always be able to have the light that forges our way forward, no matter what the pandemics say, and no matter what the naysayers say. We know what we've got to do as Jews. And we know that ultimately we'll be able to welcome the light of Biat Mashiach, of the coming of Mashiach. May he come speedily in our time. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I want to thank you for being with us together on this very, very special occasion. And please God, we look forward to a great Shabbos on which we will read this Parsha Bo, which talks about the difference between darkness and light. And we certainly know what we've got to do as Jews to bring that light to ourselves, to our neighbors, to our friends, to our community, and to the whole Am Yisrael. Thanks, and have a good evening.
Yeshakach, Rabbi.
Shkeach, Rabbi Shkeach. Just to mention also that this drosha, thank you very much, was in memory radio of Tamar Bat Zahava, which is Lez's late mother. Now, last week, just a few things before we ask Jeff to sing us a song. I asked Alan and Joan, how are you keeping with the pandemic? And I got a response from Alan. I didn't get a response from Joan. So today I'm asking, how are you doing, Joan? Unmute. How are you coping with the pandemic? Still can't hear you. It's unmuted, but your microphone is not working. No, can't hear you.
Okay.
All right, whilst you get it right, otherwise we'll have to defer it for next week.
Put it back.
I want to ask Stephen, you're the only one from Israel right now here today. Normally we have 1 or 2 or 3 people from Israel, but you're the only one in Israel today. How are things there? What's the general mood? Unmute, Stephen. Unmute. What's going on with the sound today?
He's still mute, Steve. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I'm the
Okay.
last survivor. That's why I'm the only one here.
Hello,
The
we can
mood
hear
in
you now,
Israel-
Stephen.
The mood in Israel is quite simple. A lot of people don't listen to what the government is asking us to do. Like in South Africa, they do have their own shuls. They don't wear masks, and the numbers are going up and up and up. And it's becoming more, and even though the vaccine has been given, and both my wife and myself have had both our vaccines, but we still don't go out because it's too dangerous to walk in the streets and to go into public places. The restaurants aren't even open yet. And then everybody is talking about the elections, not yesterday's elections, but the ones coming, the 4th one coming to Israel in March. So you've just got to make the best of it. We have to stay. Every day is a bracha from Hashem, and we just got to live with it and do what we can.
Thank you, Stephen. What about Ben and Toby? You are the neighbors of Norman, I think, if I remember right. How are you coping with the pandemic? Unmute, Ben.
No, it's unmuted.
No.
No, it's not. He's not unmuted.
Okay, let me see if I send him the message.
there we
maybe.
are.
There we
Okay,
go.
there we are. We can hear you now, Ben.
We naturally lazy people. We really are enjoying sitting around and not doing much. We got good neighbors. Norman is a very special neighbor, and there's a few of us at Golden Acres here who've become very good friends over this period. So we're really not complaining. We'll sit it out, and please God, we'll keep well.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. Keep going strong there, Ben. What about my friend George? George, I haven't seen you for a while. You're looking good, huh?
Thank you. So are you.
Yeah. Okay. George and I don't have to tell too many things because I think we've been friends probably about 50 years. Am I right, George?
You are right.
I remember you had just come back from being a volunteer during the 67 war. So that's when we met in 1967. Baruch Hashem, we all around. We didn't have Zoom in those days. All right, I'm going to ask, where is Jeff? Is he Jeff here? I can't see him. Jeff. Where is Jeff? Has Jeff disappeared?
No,
Oh, there he is.
yeah.
Ah, Jeff Allen. You know, this Zoom, they reposition the little screens all the time in different places. I was looking for you on the right, but now you're on the left. So Jeff is our Kohen Gadol, and you know, we've had so much doom and gloom, Rabbi Katz. And whenever we have doom and gloom, we finish off with Jeff because he cheers us up. He's the Kohen Gadol that we have. So Jeff, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's so nice to be with you again. And just to take on where Rabbi Katz, Michael Katz just mentioned about the light, I must say that the shul, the minyan at the shul, is really a delight. They are amazing. They are a light to the community. They do so much for everybody and very, very special. We're coming up to Rosh Hashanah. Is there something wrong with that? Is it not Rosh Hashanah now?
Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, it's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah's coming up. It's called Rosh Hashanah Lenanos. It is the Rosh Hashanah of the trees. This really is. We have Tu B'Shvat, which comes up now. It's a very, very special time. It's a time. What is it about, really? There's nothing in Shas that tells you much about it. It's nothing at all, in fact. However, we know, and being Kohanim, we're expecting Misa. And it's the cut-off line of the tithes that people give for the year before when they give to the Levium. So we're expecting our Misa, anyway, from everybody, but it's really a very special time. And it's something that the Jewish people, even though it's not meant, it's not spelled out, that it's a special occasion of sorts, but it is a dividing line, and this is what it's about. And there are many more things, but I'm not here to have a discussion this evening. What I would like to do is just sing you a song, which we sing pretty often, and I'll share just a couple of verses of it, and I hope you enjoy it. Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha. Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Tzavisa b'kudim b'ma hasinai, Shabbos amodim l'shma b'chol shanai, La'roch l'fona b'asei surucha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Weged ashtor achto iso mikol yamin, Jeshes koliso malechas olamim, Umotzu agumin hashki Davidcha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha, Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Shayadeis l'ksheinu, Zachra nacheves, Ducha Mashienu, Tanala netzeves, Shabbos Yosheves, Bezem v'v'cha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Last time now, Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Yom Zel Yisrael, Ora v'simcha, Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos Menucha. Good job.
Shkayach to all the Kohanim today, and there was a definite theme of tonight's session, and that was light and simcha, the light that Rabbi Katz spoke about, and the Ora v'simcha leYisrael that Jeff just sang about, that light and happiness. And when I was speaking to Arnold today, we said that this session that we have every week should be a light, it should be a happy light time, and it certainly has been there tonight. And we're so happy to see you all. It really gives us strength and happiness to see you all, and so much joy to carry us through to Shabbos, which is just 24 hours away. So good Shabbos to everybody, and thank you so much, Rabbi Katz, again, and thank you to everyone. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Arnold.
Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos, everyone. You can all
And our
unmute.
condolences
Shabbos.
also to Leslie and Michael. Pass on condolences.
We will.
Yeah.
All the
Sure.
best, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good evening and good Shabbos.
Good evening, good Shabbos. I'm cutting off.